I was able to pay down $43,000 worth of debt in just 13 months. And I'm going to be showing you the exact strategies in this video training of what I did back in the day. And it was what my wife and I did actually. And we were able to find extra money within our own finances, right? We didn't get a second job. We didn't start a side hustle, and we didn't sell anything weird on eBay or anything like that. It was all just money that was already in our finances. We just didn't know how to unlock it. So I'm going to be showing you how to do that in this video as well. More specifically and more importantly, and this is the one thing that I just keep wanting to shout from the rooftops, okay? But it only takes a little bit of extra money every single month to apply towards your debt to get these massive returns and rewards, okay? You could save literally thousands of dollars in interest. You could become debt-free years faster for just a little bit extra every month. So we're gonna be talking about how to find that, how to apply it to your debt, okay? So if any of that interests you at all, let's just get right into it. So I'm going to be going over two files today, and they're actually in the description of this video. They're completely free. So I'm going to share my screen here. We're going to go through our budget template. Cool. So this is our budget template. Okay. This is our debt payment calculator. So we're going to be talking about each of them now. As soon as I said budget, I could just tell. I could feel it. Your eyes were rolling around. Your anxiety levels were increasing. But also part of this video is I want to kind of tell you why you're thinking about budgeting all wrong, okay? And it's just a misconception that a lot of people have about budgeting. And I think it's why a lot of people don't budget at all to begin with. And I think it's because, one, people don't like the tedious aspect of budget, okay? So I'm going to talk about that. And then two, I think people believe that budgeting is just this restrictionary action on their lifestyle, how they spend their money, how they live their life. And that couldn't be further from the truth. So from now on, going forward, every time you hear the word budget, what I want you to do is think about it being a tool to help us be more intentional with where our money's going, right? Is how we're spending our money, is that aligned with our financial goals, with our life goals? And it's really easy to tell once we start going through all of this where your money goes and does it make sense with what you're trying to achieve. In this case, you clicked on this video because you're trying to pay down your debt faster. So is where your money's going helping you pay down your debt faster, right? So that's how you want to think about it, just being more intentional. A budget's a tool, a budget's a process, however you want to think about that part of it, but it's not restrictive. It's just intentional. And again, this is the process that my wife and I were able to use to pay down $43,000 worth of debt in 13 months. Okay. So it's insane. But before we talk about anything with the actual budget, we have to go to the process before the budget, which is called the 3-month look back. And here is the tab for that. And again, this is all in the description for you to download, and I would recommend checking it out as we go through this here. What does this mean? So the 3-month look back. So I'm currently recording this video in December 2024. Okay, so 3 months prior to that, September, October, November. So what you would do with this process is we want to look at all of our variable expense categories. So things like groceries, gas, utilities, right? All the things that you have on here that you use every month, you make purchases in that category every month, but it would fluctuate, right? And that would be different from your fixed expenses. So like your mortgage or your rent, where you know that month over month over month, it's going to be the same thing unless there's like a annual, price hike, right? But for the most part, like your subscription services, like a Netflix, that's a fixed, like we know what the cost of those are. But these are the ones that we want to look at because right now, if you've never budgeted before or you're not consistent, I can guarantee you that the estimation that you're doing in your head about where you're spending your money and how much, it's wrong. And this process is going to call that out in a good way because it's going to show us the raw data, the real facts of where your money is going. So what we do is we go by each month. So we're going to start in September, and however you spend money. So if it's through a credit card, through your bank statement, whatever, we're going to go through and we're going to basically go through each transaction and allocate it to an expense category. So if you did, 4 grocery trips in September, we're going to add those here. Okay. If you did a bunch of gas trips, add that here. We're going to add all of them up for each of the months. Okay. And how this file works, this beige color here is something that you can write over. So you can write anything you want. So these categories are totally up for you. These are just things that I included just sort of generally, but feel free to use, all these categories if you want. You could just type over this, right? You could just do like other category and you could just call it whatever you want, but I'm just showing you what you can do. So you might have more than me, you might have less. It doesn't really matter, but it's just about figuring out what your variable expenses are. Okay. So we go through each of the months, right? We go through September. Okay, great. These are all the variable expenses, October, November. What I'm going to do is I played around with this before this video here. So ta-da, I've entered all of the transactions. Okay. So I did that for September, October, November. I went through bank statements. I went through our credit cards, right? And this is just an example. This is not mine specifically. So what that did was now we have each category and it gave us an average. Okay, that's pretty cool. So now over the last 3 months, we have actual data to see how much we were spending in each of the categories and what the average was. And this average is going to give us a pretty good idea because 3 months is a good sample size. If you want, bonus points, extra credit, you could definitely go further back and actually just the more data you have, it's going to help you even more. But 3 is good because this process, it's slightly daunting. Okay. You got to go back and try to figure it out. But again, this time that you're spending on it is totally worth the rewards. You got to stick around and figure out, I'm going to show you how worth it is. Okay. So we have each of these averages now, right? We went through all the things, excellent stuff. Now we have to really think about, okay, now that we have the data about where our money's going, we have to really think, is this expense category aligned with a financial goal or a life goal? Now, some of these are tough because obviously groceries, like we got to eat, right? It's part of being a human. We got to eat. If you go to work, like you got to probably spend money on gas, like unless you're close enough to walk or bike, but you get the idea. Like utilities, you kind of need to watch YouTube, right? We got to watch the YouTube. So we got to have the electricity on. You got to stay warm during the winter, all this great stuff. So obviously there's only so much wiggle room. There's only so many categories that you could do. But what we need to do is figure out a new budget amount based on the data that we have of the last 3 months. We have to find a new budget amount. So I also went through the process of just getting a new budget amount. Okay. So ta-da, that's what I did in column H. Now this is going to be the budget for our variable expenses in our budget template, which we're going to go over in a minute. This is just, again, the 3-month look back. So what we're doing is we're getting data from 3 months ago, the last 3 months, and we're using that data to get a budget amount for our variable expenses, which the categories, again, are on the screen. But I mentioned to you that I don't want you to think about budgeting as restrictive or like you have to cut, right? So I don't want you to look at all of these and like, oh, wow, I have to like reduce all of these somehow. Like, how is that even possible? No, that's not this exercise. But what you can do is look at it. And again, just try and see what you can, how you can reallocate your money. So as you can see here, this monthly savings column, this is the indicator of how much money, it's your average minus your new budget amount. So it's saying how much monthly savings are you potentially getting with this new budgeted amount based on the average and your new budget. You can see here there's green, which is good, which means, yes, we save money, but there's also some red here, which means, oh, wow, we're actually spending more money. So I wanted to talk about both of these. And we'll start with groceries, okay? Because that's, again, you need to eat. But if you're sitting there and you're like, wow, you know what? I don't know your situation, right? But it's like, I could, instead of going to like the super duper expensive store, I could go like a step or two down store and like, lettuce is lettuce at the end of the day, right? So I can just get get some stuff at another store. So what you do here, and that's why I already added this here. So like, you know what? I could budget for $525 in groceries. And the most important part of this step is this column here, column J. What action will you take to make this happen? Okay. Because anyone could just say, oh yeah, I'm just going to try to spend this amount, but you have to tie it into your financial goals, your life goals, or just something that you know that you can do. Because if you don't have an action behind it or a why behind it, you're never going to do it. Okay. So in this case, you could just say something like, yeah, cheaper store for most items, right? And then, yeah, you go to the store to get the, specialty couple of things that you really enjoy. But yeah, for the most part, like you found that, okay, I can maybe just do the cheaper store. Now, the other one I like to talk about is health and fitness, right? So we look here, you know, our average was $30 a month. And you could be sitting there saying, you know what, my health and fitness is actually so important. And I'm embarrassed that I'm only spending $30 on this a month. Like, yeah, I have a gym membership and I do an extra class here or there. I get a smoothie at the front desk, whatever, right? But actually, I got to spend more money. So you're like, okay, let me double my budget for this. I'm not quite sure exactly what that means, like how I'm going to get there, but like this is really important to me. My health is really important. So you could say like, yeah, more classes. I can't spell. And I don't know, supplements, right? Whatever. Again, can't spell. And that's how we go through this process. Now, some of these are smaller amounts, right? So, whatever for these, but like the bigger amounts, dining out, again, we could look at that like, oh, wow, I'm spending $258 a month dining out. It's like, well, you could look at it two ways. Like, well, I could just stop doing it. Or if you want to keep it, you keep it. But then you have to realize that maybe you're losing out in other areas, but maybe it's like, well, I could increase my grocery spend by a little bit. So instead of going down here, you could be like, well, I could actually increase this to like 6 something, but then reduce this significantly, right? And then you have a tremendous amount of savings. So you could just say like more intentional with cooking at home or something like that, right? That way you're not using the Uber Eats, you're not, picking up food all the time. It's no, I'm going to be more intentional about buying a ton of food, making it during the week, whatever. And however you want to think about this, but this column is the most important because if you don't find the why, and if you don't find the right why, meaning like something that's actually important to you or why, or like your health and fitness and the dining out, that could be a thing. It's like, well, I'm eating like crap and I want to be a little healthier. So maybe that's like merge those two together, right? So however you want to look at it. But the most powerful part of this, again, we talked about the monthly savings, but we did not talk about how much in total this potentially saved us, right? So based on our averages and our new budget amounts, $140 a month you just found in your finances. Like it was just sitting out in front of you. Now, results obviously may vary. These are not your numbers. They're just some made up numbers that I came up with. So what I would recommend doing is go through this exercise, see what this number is down here. Okay. And by the way, the $140, if annualized, it's almost $1,700, right? Every year. So think about what you could do towards your financial goals with $1,700 extra dollars. But go through this exercise, and it doesn't matter what anyone else's number is. And I can give you a little more context once we go through the debt calculator portion of this, because that might open your eyes a little bit. But go through this exercise and see, you know what, is this number, do I feel like this is significant enough for me? Right? So if you go through this exercise and you have like $7 here a month, it's like, wow, maybe I need to like revisit a few things, right? There's always some money to be had, I think. So I would just go through that exercise like that and think about it like that. Okay. So go through the exercise and like, wow. So me personally, I'd be like, wow, $140 a month. That's incredible. And it's really incredible once you see what it does towards the debt, right? So you got to stick around for that. But that's kind of that process. And again, I'm not going to lie to you. Like this will be time consuming. It will be, but then again, this is a one-time effort for, a better improved financial situation for like the rest of your life. Like as long as you stick with this. And again, that's why the whys are so important. You can't do this for 2 or 3 months, then fall off and then you're back on the wagon again and you're living paycheck to paycheck again. Like this whole point is to get you out of that cycle and going on to like the next goal. So getting out of debt, and then like your head's above water now. Now you can push money towards other financial goals, right? If you're investing, if you're saving money for your kids' education, whatever the thing is, right? So that was the 3-month look back. We're going to go into the December monthly budget. And by the way, in those files that I have down below, There are video instructions, so I'd recommend you watching them. I'm not really going to give you like a play-by-play of everything that's going on in this one. I'll give you sort of the higher level, but if you want like a deeper dive into what all these sections are, what they do, make sure you check out the videos. They're going to be inside the templates. Okay. So this is our budget template, and I have already set it up for December. Great. So basically what happened, again, the variable expenses, all of this carried over. So these are all of our our variable expense categories. And then these are our new budget amounts. So I don't know if you could see, but there's like a formula in here, right? It's pulling from this tab. So anything that you enter in here basically is going to flow through to this. Okay, just really cool. So if you need to make changes with your variable expense stuff, make sure you do it here. And then everything else on this tab is fine. So we have our fixed expenses. So I've already kind of set up everything for us here, just so we can go through the example. I wanted to save you a little time. I didn't want you watching me plug in all these numbers. So again, I just have some generic categories here. Feel free to change these. You can do it right on this section here for the fixed expenses. Same sort of thing. You can just type in anything there. But yeah, so with the fixed expenses, whatever the budget amount is, that's basically what you should be expecting to pay. So as you're going through the month, like, oh, yep, my mortgage or rent's paid. Oh, yep, our cell phone's bill paid. You just kind of keep filling these in. And this budget, we're going to base it on our total budget of, in this case, it's $4,400. And that's assuming if you have two paychecks for $2,200 each. So your budget is based on how much money you make, which makes sense, right? You can't spend more money than you're making. So we have to make sure we get to $4,400 as our budget. And that's going to dictate everything else in this file. So these up here, I'm just going to go through these quickly. Remaining to budget. This basically is taking our total budget of $4,400 and it's subtracting all of these budgeted total budget categories that we have down here. Okay. So it's taking the total budget minus the fixed expense budget, the variable expense budget, financial goals budget, and the debt budget. Okay. And the goal of this section is to get it green. And by getting it green, it means you have to budget exactly $4,400 in this case. So just to show you, if I add $140 randomly somewhere, it turns to green, right? Green is good. Okay. Leftover money and actual spend, these are pretty tied together, but it just shows slightly different. Leftover money is the total budget minus the fixed expense actual that we've spent, the variable expense actual, okay? The financial goals actual, and the debt type actual. So the actual money that has left our bank account and to pay these things on the screen, okay? So the goal here is, again, we want zero leftover money. The whole goal is we bring in $4,400 and $4,400 leaves, okay? And if you think that means that you're going to keep living paycheck to paycheck, no, because the goal is that some of that money, and we're going to get into that in a second, we want to be pushing towards financial goals. So every time you push money towards a financial goal, you're getting closer and closer towards getting out of whatever cycle you're in. So if you're in the paycheck to paycheck cycle, if you're in the what the hell am I doing with all this debt cycle, like every time you put more money to solving that problem, you're getting closer to getting out of it. Okay, that's how I want you to think about it. And then, yeah, this actual spend, it's just in total, how much money have we spent? So it's the fixed expense actual plus variable expense actual plus the financial goals actual and the debt actual, okay? Total financial goal. So this is just basically calculating how much money we've spent on a financial goal. And it's pretty much all non-debt financial things. So I have like emergency fund, your kids' education, retirement. Again, feel free to enter as whatever you want in here. And then this section is totaling how much debt we've actually paid. Okay, so we have these here, and I'm going to go through, it kind of flows into the debt payment calculator. I'm going to show you that, but we have some credit cards, a car loan, student loan, and personal loan. Okay, now you'll notice that in this budget, and this is something that I want you to strive for, because I talk to a lot of people about their personal finances. Okay, and people are not doing this, and by this I mean they're not budgeting for paying down their debt. It's an afterthought. And so they go through the month and they're like, crap, like we have these debt bills and we're not going to make it or whatever. You got to budget these in. and then figure out where, where to spend less money elsewhere. Because I'm hoping the example I'm going to show you on the debt payment calculator is really powerful and motivating so that you can change your thought process around all of this. Okay. But you have to plan for your financial goals. If you don't plan for your financial goals, they're never going to happen. And they're always going to be an afterthought, which means that you're never going to get ahead. They need to be like in the front of your mind. And that's where this whole budgeting process comes into play. Like, we have to be more intentional with how we're spending our money. So if your goal is to pay off your credit card debt and your debt in general, we got to be intentional about making sure that we are putting money towards it. Okay. So you'll notice that after we go through all of that, and I kind of did this on purpose, just as an FYI, but our remaining to budget, so we have $140 left to budget. Okay. And if you remember on the 3-month look back, we have $140 of extra money that we found. So, oh, that is excellent. So before we figure out where we're putting it, and again, this process, this 3-month look back, we're not making more money so that we can like buy stupid stuff. Okay. We're finding more money in our finances to push to a financial goal. Again, if you're watching this, it's probably to pay down debt, but any financial goal, like, that would excite me if you're doing that. So please don't spend it on stupid stuff. Put it towards the goals. Pull your goals closer, right? That's what we're trying to do with this. Pull your goals closer. So we have $140 left to budget. Okay. So we know our number one goal is to pay down debt. So we want to put that extra $140 towards our debt. So before we can really figure out which one to put it towards, we have to look at the debt payment calculator. Okay. All right, good. So I've already set this up before the training tonight. So again, same thing here. We're going to be entering our data. So creditor type, feel free to enter whatever you want. As you can see here, I have some like companies in here. I just have general things. So I have like an Amex credit card, personal student loan, Visa credit card, car loan. You can call this, Toyota. You can call this whatever you guys want to call it. It's your file. Feel free to use it however you want. It's just however you're going to best remember it. The current balance as of right now. So enter the total balance, enter the interest rate for each of the line items, and then the minimum payment. Okay. All of these are very critical for the calculation, which we're going to see in a second on this debt payment calculator. Okay. So we have to know all these, and the system will not work. The calculator will not work if one of these things is missing. Okay. So we have, after entering all that, as you can see, it totals here $40,000 in debt. Okay. And our minimum payment total is $400. Now, again, I set this up pretty well where the budget, you can see, we budgeted for the $400 minimum payment. Okay, great. We're paying the minimum payments on all our debt. And that should be goal number one, by the way. Make sure we get to the minimum payment, because if you don't know, if you don't make your minimum payment, the loan provider is going to charge you extra money. And that's just how that's how your debt keeps snowballing out of control, because they keep charging you, I don't know what it is, $20, $40 every time that you don't make the minimum payment. And instead of getting ahead or even breaking even, you're getting behind. Okay. So this should be the first goal. But let's just say, for argument's sake, that we've been paying, our minimum payments are $400. We've been paying $400 a month. Okay. And same thing with this file, by the way. If you go to the file down in the description, there's going to be a video on a video tutorial on what to do with this file. We've been paying $400 a month. Okay. There's two strategies that you could use to paying off your debt. The first is the avalanche method. And with this, the calculator will rank your loans in order of highest interest rate to lowest interest rate. So what would happen with this is, so in this case, let's see if I can make this a little smaller so I can show you. Get both of these in here. Cool. So with the avalanche method, you can enter it however you want here. The calculator will reorganize it to meet the strategy. So as you can see, the Visa credit card is 18% interest. So that's in the first spot. Great. That's the first priority. The calculator is going to prioritize the first line. The next one is the Amex credit card at 12%, as you can see here, right? And then we have car loan at 7%, personal loan at 4%, and the student loan at 3%, right? So It's ordering it based on that. And the whole point is, with the avalanche method, we're trying to pay off the highest interest rate first. So it's going to be the most cost efficient way to pay down your debt because we're paying off the biggest problems, if you will, right? So the 18%, like that's pretty high. So getting rid of that as soon as possible is great. So if we get rid of the 18% and then the 12%, like you're looking pretty good. Now we just have lower interest rates. Okay, we have 4.37. So that's kind of the strategy with that one. So it's gonna be the most cost efficient. But the problem is it might take longer to pay off the first couple, as you can see here. Like the second one is going to take you 220 months. I don't even know what the quick math is on that. It's like 9 years, 8 years, whatever. Oh, it's right here. Yeah, 2043. So I'm way off because it's 19 years. And basically, that's sort of the disadvantage of that. On the opposite strategy is the snowball method. So you can click here, you can do snowball. And as you can see, it kind of reorganized everything. And this strategy ranks your debt from the lowest amount to the largest amount. So as you can see, it's based off the current balance, and it did shift. So I'll show you that. I'll go back to Avalanche. You can see them sort of shifting around down here. Okay. So the Visa was actually the smallest balance and the highest interest. So that's why it's still sitting here. But then the car loan is the next one, right? And then we have two 5Ks, so they're here. And then the Amex, the big 25,000, is on the bottom. The benefit to this is, in most cases, you're likely going to be paying off the smallest ones first. So when my wife and I were paying down $43,000 of debt in 13 months, the reason why we accidentally picked the snowball method was because we had about 4 or 5 loans that were under $1,200. And that was like, yeah, a third of our total loans, which 12 is insane, by the way, like insane. Would not recommend it. So basically, what we did was we're like, if we can get rid of those 4 under $1,200, like that would be amazing. So that's the strategy that we use. By the way, we probably would have saved more money of interest if we had done the avalanche, but for us, like the peace of mind was really important. So those are the two strategies. Now for this example, I'm going to go back to the avalanche because it is the most cost efficient one for you. So as you can see, based on all this data that we have here, we're paying $400 a month, the 400 minimum, right? So we're basically paying the minimum amount that we have to pay. Look at this. So this calculator down here, we're adding the total interest paid over the life of each of the loans. If each line item has an interest amount that we're paying, it's going to show how many months it's going to pay off and then what that month and year lineup is. Okay. So when you say you have $40,000 and you go through this and you're paying your minimum payments, you actually have $88,000 because you're not including the interest that you will be paying throughout the life of this loan, as you can see. So $48,000 of interest by just making our minimum payments. And our debt-free date, again, I'm recording this in December 2024. So it's 19 years, guys, 19 years. So if you're actually serious about paying down your debt faster, paying off $40,000 in 19 years is not good. And that's why this strategy and this calculator are really going to help because you can play around with some of these numbers. Really, this is the key. We're going to play around with this. And you can just see like what would work and what would work better and everything like that. So with the money that we've found in our finances, right? The extra $140 here from the 3-month look back, we're just going to move it all to debt. Okay. So this monthly payment, we're going to change from $400 to $540. Now, before I hit enter, make sure you're looking at this down here. Okay. So again, the interest is $48,000 and the debt-free date is April 2043. $30,000 of interest gone, right? So as you can see, like now the total interest paid is almost $19,000. So we saved $30,000 of interest just by finding an extra $140 a month in our finances. So before I move on, if that doesn't motivate you to find extra money in your finances, I don't know what will. Now, I mentioned before, if you go through this process of the 3-month look back and you're not totally stoked with this, maybe it's like you found $40, which, hey, anything is great, by the way, but you would just kind of run it through the calculator. Like, okay, you could add an extra $40 here and you see what that looks like. But if you really go after it, so you find the $140, you save $30,000, guys, of interest. And also, guess what? You save like 10 years of being in debt. 10 years. Okay. Think about who you were 10 years ago, right? Now think about just how much you've changed and all this other stuff. Like, now think about yourself in 10 years. We have no idea what that's going to look like, right? And I try to do this exercise. Sometimes it's tough. You can't really project, but just imagine where you were 10 years ago, where you are now, and the amount of changes that you're still going to go through in 40 years, like mentally and emotionally and like all this other stuff. But if you had $30,000 extra, like what could you do with that in the next 10 years, right? So it's going to, in this example, that would take us 10 years to pay off. What would you do with that $30,000, right? You could probably, again, do some investing or save for a kid's education, or you could do so much, but like, it doesn't take much, $140, guys. So then this is where the game gets really interesting. Really interesting, because you're like, well, what if I did more, right? What if you found, instead of the $400, so we'll go back to that. What if you found an extra $250 a month? So now we're going to $650, right? And this just keeps going down and down and down. The power of a little extra money compounds, because everyone wants to talk about compounding interest in investing, right? Everyone talks about, oh, compounding interest. People say it's like the eighth wonder of the world, whatever, because it's pretty great. You just, when you're investing, you put money in and it grows, right? It grows itself. But the same thing happens with debt. Like, the longer it takes, like the more interest, it just compounds the wrong way. And when you have debt, you're paying other people money that, you're building their wealth and you're subtracting from your wealth, right? So you have to think about it like that too. Like, it's not like, oh, I'm just in debt. Like, you're literally making people rich. Like, you're making industries and companies and, I guess individuals rich based on your inability to just find a little extra money in your finances and apply it to debt. Like, we got to get out of debt. Okay. So that's that. And here's, again, I'm going to show you, we're back to $400 a month. So this is the minimum, because I want to show you the negative compounding effect. So let's just say you're not making your minimum payments. Let's say you're only making $300 worth of payments, right? So again, when I hit enter, we're going to watch this interest paid down here. Right now it's 48,000 in April 2043. Look what happens. So first of all, the calculator is yelling at us that we need to increase our monthly payment, but it went up $30,000, up $30,000. Okay, just by not making an extra $100 payment, and it added 10 more years. So now instead of the 20, it's going to take 30 years, guys. So your $40,000 of debt is turning into $118,000 or whatever. That's insane, and that's why people are stuck in debt, because goal 1, make your minimum payments, please, right? And then goal 2, we got to find more money so we can apply it. We can apply it to the debt. So that's why this exercise now, I really hope that you found some sort of value in that, because why wouldn't you want to find more money now? Like, you're literally saving tens of thousands of dollars. You're shaving years of your life of being in debt just by finding extra money, going through the process of being more intentional with how you're spending your money, guys. Like, it's not restrictive. It's just a reallocation of your funds. Like, we're all not billionaires. Like, we're just regular people. So we don't have all this money to just play around with. So we have to be really, really smart with what we spend it on, how we spend it, and why we're spending it. That's the most important thing. Okay. So that's basically that strategy. I wanted to kind of introduce you guys to Dollar Discipline University. It's a free course and community that I just started. It basically teaches what I just kind of went through. There's a little more in the classroom. There's a couple of videos, but for the most part, the goal of this community is to help you find more money in your finances and apply it to your debt, right? Because paying down your debt is great. Being debt-free is amazing, but that's not the end goal, right? Personal finances isn't about reaching a goal and then stopping, right? We want to pay down our debt faster so that we can do the next thing, do the next goal, right? Too many people that I talk with, they barely have anything invested. If they have kids, like they're not really planned for them financially. And I want to change that. Okay. So it's a completely free course, by the way, free. Never going to ask you for money in this thing, but here's the site. If you're interested, it's school.com/debt. Okay. School.com/debt. And basically, as you can see, there's 6 members in here. So you'd be like a founding member in this community if you were to join. And it just takes you through the strategies, the implementation, the accountability, like I'm in here. You can talk to me like this. Like someone was in here mentioning stuff, right? So you have access to me, right? And as I build this out, like I'm going to be, building, like calls with people, and we're going to be adding to the community based on, feedback from you guys. And I just want to make this, good because I think too many people are in debt. The stats are insane. Something like over 50% of people don't have $1,000 saved up for an emergency. Like if $1,000 emergency came up, they couldn't pay for it. So that's what I'm trying to fix, one person at a time. And that's what this community is for. Again, it's completely free. I just hope that there's a ton of value in here for you guys. So if you're interested, check it out. That's the end of this video. Stay good. I'm going to be streaming every Thursday night. We'll call it 7:30 Eastern, could be 8 o'clock, depending on when my kids go to bed. But I want to get into this weekly habit. So if you like this, just kind of comment below or whatever, and let me know topics that you want me to talk about for next time. So that I can help you. Okay. Cause I want to do this every week. I want to get into the routine, and I want to know what you want to know. I don't want to talk about what I think you want to know. Like I want to know what you need help with. Okay. So let me know. I'll see you guys in the next one. Keep winning. Okay.